Hello all, and welcome to the Caregiver Support Series. Hey everyone, and welcome spring. Finally, am I right? I've had some great feedback from you guys this past week, and I want to say a quick thanks to those of you who are reaching out. I love hearing from all of you. Please keep sharing this series as a resource. In today's episode, I'm going to highlight a couple of self-care activities. So grab your favorite hot beverage, 2 pieces of paper, and sit back. My words to describe segment is centered around self-care this week. The Education Corner will teach you 3 different activities that are easy and will hopefully give you some things to reflect on. As usual, I have some additional related content for you at the end of the episode, and my sources are cited in red. Next week's topic is grief and the current crisis. It's no secret that self-care is important. I'm sure you've heard it time and time again from multiple people and multiple sources. Try to find a couple of legitimate sources that really speak to you and stick with those. It's also no secret that caregivers are notorious for ignoring their own needs. Self-care is not selfish, but caregivers tend to use their time to care for others instead of themselves. We get told over and over why we should and how we can care for ourselves. Yet somehow, even as caregivers, we have a tendency to brush aside all of that advice. A simple internet search will bombard you with articles and images, blogs and podcasts, websites and books, all that are dedicated to the value of self-care and the challenges of caregiving. I've already touched on some of it in my first episode when I talked about stress management. Today, Words to Describe is brought to you by a fellow caregiver named Wendy Pearson. Wendy cared for her mother, whom she eventually lost to multiple myeloma. She wrote an article in January of this year for caregiver.com where she talks about how grateful she is for the caregiving experience that fundamentally changed her for the better, both as a person and as a professional. She titled it, "The Opportunity to Pause." She writes about how caregiving provided her this space to have moments of reflection and self-awareness. This happened in the quiet of waiting rooms, in the hours while her mom was resting, and during sleepless nights. She called these her opportunities to pause and tried to make the best of those types of moments. She turned to a productive and practical self-care activity, journaling. This sounds so much more healthy to me than being on a device for a long period of time. Her article includes prompts for someone in the form of questions if they wanted to start their own journaling. She understands that very few people are prepared to be thrown into the role of a caregiver. For most, it interrupts life in a very abrupt way. But Wendy doesn't focus on that. She talks about how once she established a routine, she found some beauty in the time she was given. She touches on the unknowns that at times weighed heavy on her. How long will this situation last? What does the end of it actually mean? Will she have a job afterwards? Sounds pretty similar to what we're dealing with right now. The thing I liked best about this article, and really why I chose it, is that Wendy brings up something I think that is key to self-care, which is reflection and self-awareness. It's essential to check in with yourself every once in a while to make sure your cup is filled and that you feel balanced or well-rounded in life. Maybe this is your opportunity for that, your opportunity to pause and figure out your own needs. So this is a positive picture of caregiving, I think. It focuses on the blessings in disguise, which is another reason I chose it. Caregiving can transform someone's life for the better. It did Wendy's. I hope you can find something that brings your soul some peace and your life some balance in your own situation, maybe using some of these self-reflective activities. The first activity in the Education Corner is simply called Before and After. Get a blank piece of paper. On one side of it, write words or draw a picture to describe yourself before you became a caregiver. On the other side, write words or draw a picture to describe yourself after you became a caregiver. Include how you saw yourself and how you see yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually in the descriptions. Be brutally honest. Caregiving can really take it out of you. Note the differences and changes between the two sides of the paper. What is different about you now? How has caregiving affected you physically, emotionally, and/or spiritually? How do you feel about these changes? Give it some thought. The second activity asks that you think of yourself as a car. As a caregiver, you spend so much time thinking about, caring for, and loving others that you might forget that you too need love and care. Sometimes caregiving becomes so complex and you give so much of yourself that you don't even know when you're running on empty. So consider this. If you were a car, what would your gas gauge read right now? Empty? A quarter tank? Would you be half full? 3/4 of a tank? Are you freshly filled? What uses up your gas? Keep in mind that running on empty prevents you from getting to where you need to go. If you don't care for yourself, you may have difficulty caring for others. So what is one thing that sustains your ability to get around in the world of caregiving? What is one thing that gives you joy or comfort? It can be as simple as taking 5 minutes during the day to sit down and put your feet up, or something as grand as going for a walk with a friend. Try to do it once a week. Put a picture of a car that represents you somewhere to remind yourself to fill your gas tank and give yourself a tune-up. My husband would love this exercise only to pick out a car that represents himself. For the third activity, the life balance wheel, I have to give credit to my coworker, Tim Polakowski. He is our social work educator and also a certified advanced care planning facilitator. He introduces this exercise to every new Hospice of Northwest Ohio employee and follows up with them after 4 months and then after 1 year. So I did this exercise first about 4.5 years ago. Thank you, Tim. This is one of the many things I've learned from you that has impacted my life in a very positive way. So guys, you'll need one more piece of paper. I want you to draw a large circle and then cut it like a piece of pie into 8 slices. Next, create 10 ticks up each line. Suggested labels for each slice are as follows: career, sleep, health, family, marriage or significant other, attitude and fulfillment, spirituality, and finally, finances. Sidebar: if a particular section isn't meaningful to you, feel free to relabel the sections with what is meaningful to you. Now, you're going to rate your level of satisfaction with these areas in your life on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 meaning not satisfied at all, 10 meaning completely happy with this part of your life. Color the slices of pie up to each number. This gives you a visual representation of how well balanced your life is. How well would this wheel roll, It may help you set some meaningful goals to work towards to achieve a little bit better balance. It sure did for me. I'm running out of time for the week, but here are 2 quick nurse tips. Number 1, remember our mantra, my best is enough. Have grace with yourself, you guys. And number 2, pick one activity for the week that fills you up. Please share with me anything you feel like you got out of the experience. Here are some more resources for information, support, and guidance for family and professional caregivers. Thanks so much for watching. This has been an episode of the Caregiver Support Series brought to you by Hospice of Northwest Ohio. Next week, I'll be talking about grief and the current crisis.